Okay, I think we're live.
Welcome, everyone. I think that we already have some people in the house. I see Meno, I see Alicia, Tamara from Rotterdam. Nice. Please type where you're from so that we can give you a shout out. So we'll give a couple of minutes for people to still join. We've got a lot of action going on today. So I think that one thing that I would like to do, but let's give a couple of minutes so that people can join, and I'll explain the format of today's session, and then I'll introduce you to our expert today, and then we'll deep dive straight into the questions and the actions. So let's give a couple of minutes. If you are here, just put in the chat where you're from, and yeah, I think that we'll give just 1 minute, Tom, if that's okay with you, 1 or 2 minutes,
Yeah,
so that people still have time to join.
absolutely.
Several people from the Netherlands.
Yes.
And
Hey,
just
Pat.
last week, I was telling you guys I was in Amsterdam.
Laura, hey Laura from Toulouse, France. Oh, nice. We're a French company, so we love people from France.
Hi, Patrick. Hello, Colorado.
Okay. Okay, just a couple of minutes so that people can still join, and then I'll explain the format and introduce our guest today. Maybe one more minute. Good. More people joining. Please, if you just joined, just tell us where you're from so we can give you a shout out. And we are going to explain the format and then introduce our guest and then start the session. Okay, Tom, if you agree, Ivan from Macedonia, nice. Welcome, Ivan.
Our fellow
If
Macedonian.
yes. Okay, one more minute and we'll kick it off. Good. Okay, should we start, Tom?
Yep, I think we
Okay,
should start.
perfect. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. If you're watching this on live, great. Thanks for joining for your time. And if you're watching this recorded, thank you also. My name is Ignacio. I'm part of the Kiflo team. I do partnerships here, and I also have my colleague Tom. He's also part of the Kiflo team. And so I'll be your host today, and Tom will be moderating. So Tom will be kind of like looking at the chat. And again, the format today's format is going to be different. It's going to be like a rapid fire Q&A, super fast paced, and that's why we need your interaction. So if you want to ask something to our guest today, please do and ask as many questions as you want, because as much as we and ask, we'll get the answers from him. So please, I'll encourage you to put the questions in the chat, and we won't wait until the end. We'll definitely, Tom will give us kind of like the questions, and our guests will answer them. So the idea today is to get actionable tips, valuable insights from the experience from our experts. So let me just introduce you, Filip Popov. Thank you, Filip, for joining us. So Filip is the VP of Partnerships at Growth Era, and Filip has more than 6 years of experience doing partnerships in many different industries. And I met Filip, I think that was like 3 years ago. And every time that I speak with him, I learn a lot. So welcome, Filip. Thanks again for joining. And please do introduce yourself. People are here for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ignacio. Thanks for inviting me, first and foremost. I know this is the first episode in your webinar series, so I'm very excited to be doing the first one that you're doing this with.
You have the
Um,
honor, yes, and it's a pleasure to
yeah,
have you as the first guest.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that's when about 2, 3 years ago is when we met, and every couple of months we do a regular check-in. I know we did that blog post some time ago, so just happy to have this partnership go into a different direction with this webinar, and hopefully some other things down the road. Uh, a little bit about me. I'm 27. I've been at Growth Era since 21, actually. Kind of like when I started working there, it was a very small company. Right now, we're a company of about, I think, 70 to 80 people, give or take.
Wow.
So I've kind of like seen it all. I went through all of the stages of being a startup to eventually being this. I guess we're a corporation at this point. It does feel like that. So I've had the pleasure to work with small organizations, with medium ones, with large enterprises in multiple different roles while I've been here. But I guess for the past couple of years, I've been in this partnership role where I was tasked to first and foremost create a partnership program, something that's
Hmm.
going to be a bit more scalable,
Yeah,
and then make it a fruitful channel for more revenue. So
beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful.
I mean
So
I can talk plenty, but go ahead.
of course, now hold the horses because we have a lot of questions for you, and the public is probably going to want more from you. So maybe we can kick it off, Tom, with because we want to make it interactive as well. So we have a couple of things that we need from your side. So we can kick it off with the first poll. So Tom, please take your
Hmm.
lead here. Okay, so you can vote now. So please just go and vote. So, what is your 2025 partnership revenue expectation? This is something that will give us a clear understanding of whether it's a priority for you or not. And yeah, so we'll give you a couple of minutes to answer. So please do go and just like select the option that works for you.
I just started a poll. Yeah, okay. It's going.
Okay, nice.
Have
So we'll give a couple of minutes until people can actually vote. Perfect. So votes are coming. Okay, let me know, Tom, when we have enough votes. Nice. It's nice to see it live as it changes. Okay, so how many votes do we have, Tom? Can we close the
yeah,
poll?
I think it's enough.
Okay,
Yeah, we
perfect.
can. Yeah. So we have 43, 43 for 1 to 10 and 30 plus.
Oh,
Okay,
there it changed
now
again.
it's 30. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's between
Not
10
even.
and then 30 plus, which is, I don't know what you think about this, Philip. Were you expecting this?
Um, well, it's interesting because some of the things that we're going to be discussing later go even more than 30 plus. But yeah, I think this is a fairly average percentage to aim for. I think partnerships as a channel is still like quite new, I guess,
Yeah,
as a source for more revenue. So 20-ish% is at least what I'm seeing around in networks that I guess you're also a part of, like
correct.
20,
Yes,
25,
that's it's
30%.
similar.
30%
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, maybe it's on the high end.
you're doing really well if you're on the 30% slot for sure.
Perfect.
So
Yeah. And we
that's
have
that's
another
good.
poll for our audience as well,
Okay,
before we kick off.
let's just have it.
And I'm gonna stop this poll, start a new one, and
So this
let's
one is
figure.
interesting. What are the challenges do you face in scaling your partner program? This one is relevant for what we are going to discuss today during the session. And yeah, if you can just like select which one. This could also be if you work with it could be your program, and also if you work with clients or for their programs, also it's relevant. So please do select your choices. Okay, I see votes coming in. Interesting. Okay. Wow.
Oh, wow, everything.
At an
Okay,
even battle. I think
let's give
all
it a
four of
couple of minutes.
those I think all four of those are equally challenging things when it comes to
Yeah.
partnerships. At least for me, they were all four of them. So
Yeah, but I think that there's a clear kind of like tendency, if you cannot find the right partners, it's worth it. I mean, it's just like, why do you even care, or would you even kind of like use the resources? So I think that it makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad, because actually it is one of our main topics today. So with that, maybe we can kick it off and start the first topic. Sounds good, Philip?
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay, so let's kick it off. So defining the right partners. So Philip, I wanted to ask you, from your experience, what are the type of partners that you have found most success with?
yeah. So I mean, obviously, there's so many different types of partners, and it really depends on the industry that you're working in, whether you sell products or services or what have you. The ones that we've worked with the most, I would say, and how all of this started in Growth Era as defining a partnership channel and making it successful was working through VARs. So for those who don't know, VAR stands for Value Added Reseller. I just sometimes call them resellers. These are typically the types of companies or partners that will maybe even white label your solution if you're open to something like that. Again, it tends to be very subjective to what you're selling, but those have probably been the ones we found the most success with, and how all this kick started.
Mhm.
Second, I would also put referral partners. Those have always been good, while not as consistent when it comes to bringing in new deals, new revenue. For example, I found that referral partners have always been great. Every couple of months, they tend to check in and see how things are going. And then also we found, or at least what I'm exploring at this point, is just strategic alliances.
Yeah,
Something that, for example, we're doing with all of these co-marketing initiatives, with co-branding, just creating stuff together, kind of like getting two companies and forming a single entity, or at least taking parts of of each company and forming a single entity where you can go to market with together. So
makes a
I
lot of
think
sense.
those three have been kind of like, for me and for us, what has stuck the most. Again, I would take the VARs as something that started this off, and probably the biggest thing about them is, when it comes to revenue, they're
Hmm.
the most interested in that, and it's probably the easiest way for them to realize revenue.
Okay,
I don't know.
so a quick follow up to that one. How did you realize that those were the best partners to work with?
So at the very beginning, usually, and I know we're gonna be reiterating different versions of this question throughout the whole webinar, but in general, people that you work with very easily, from both sides, there's a fluidity in the way that you guys communicate and get deals done, and everything when it comes to communication. I think those have been kind of like the best partners. So also, obviously, the frequency of deals and net new revenue coming through. The
Yeah,
whole point of all of this is still to win more clients together.
yeah,
But I have found out that partners usually seek one of two things, sometimes maybe both. One, and especially this is in case with VARs, is that they want to understand how they can manage revenue. So take your solution and how they can resell it or bundle it with some of their other solutions. Or
hmm,
number two is how they can get more opportunities with working with you. So
yeah.
everyone is kind of like prioritizing themselves at the end of the day. So that's those are kind of like the two things they really care about.
Ma- Makes
Um,
a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Tom, I think that we have a question from Alicia. Do you want to read it out loud?
Exactly. Yeah. Alicia wants to ask you, Philip, how do you best manage engagement for different partner types?
It's a very good question. I think while we were working through our partnership program in general, we only worked with one specific type of partner. So if we're focusing on VARs, we're solely focusing on them. If we're focusing on referral partners, then solely focusing on them. At least I haven't been into a situation where I had to manage multiple types, or at least maybe at a time when we were working with VARs, 90% of the time and attention was put into them, and then the other 10% into referral partners. So they didn't get too much attention. So it was kind of like on autopilot. When something comes in from them, then that's great. But we didn't actively engage together to work through the partnership. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just my way of doing things, but I tend to work on one thing at a time. Just put in as much focus and energy into that rather than putting everything at like 30% on each, for example.
That's a great insight, actually. Great. Cool. Any other questions that we have for this topic? Because I think that we covered pretty much what we wanted.
Yeah. Okay. I
Uh,
think we have some. No.
Oh, we've got Tamara.
Yeah, okay. So Tamara says, I work for a smaller company that partners with large organizations. Referral partners have identified the value we offer to them and have maintained regular contact throughout the year. However, I'm struggling to secure a commitment from them regarding the number of leads they can generate in 2025. Do you have any suggestions on how I can improve that?
Yeah, so I mean, commitment and engagement with partners. I guess Ignacio, that's going to be one of your other
Yes.
topics in the upcoming webinar series.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah, this was going to be more for how to recruit new partners, at least this webinar. Um, in general, from my experience, referral partners tend to be there, but not at the frequency that you want to. For example, if you want a new lead each week, or maybe you're a bit more modest than every each month or every other month. Um, in my experience, it isn't as consistent with referral partners. They tend to show up a couple of times per year. And really, it depends on the type of partner and how much they engage with their network.
Mhm.
For example, I found good success with sales consultants, fractional VPs of sales, fractional marketing officers, but they tend to show up, like I mentioned, 3 or 4 times throughout the year, where they actually have someone that they're working with and could propose our solution.
Yeah.
So it depends. I think you need to identify. I think you've done a good job, Tamara, on identifying that they are referral partners. Now, kind of like you really need a lot of patience, and I tend to treat referral partners as kind of like friends that you occasionally check in with, so that kind of like be a more friendly relationship rather than a pure business one, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, Philip. It's just like behaving as humans always works, right? Like, so
Yeah.
that's a really nice insight.
I mean, you also have a
Cool.
lot of insights on this topic just with
Yeah,
Kiflo and just working with these type of companies.
you are a great example. I mean, so that's why we're here today.
Yep.
Anyway, should we go to the second subtopic?
Yes, let's go to the second one. Internal buying. This is a huge one. So, how do you convince your team on the idea of partnerships? And this one, Philip, I would like to ask you, how did you realize that first partnerships was something to explore? And then how did you approach your leadership and say, hey, this is a good idea?
Yeah, this one was like when you're telling war stories. It's how I feel about the topic, because really how everything kick started was by chance. We met I'm not gonna name any names, but I met a president from a company that became our client, and then eventually he wanted to become a VAR because he saw value in our service. Um, and our main service is just at that point it was just outbound sales development. Now we've expanded into different things, into more service lines, but at the time it was just that, and he saw that how valuable it is and how affordable it was, because outsourcing versus building internally can mean two different things for a lot of organizations. And he became a VAR. He also referred clients to us. So he was like two things at the same time, with
Mhm.
more focus on VAR. And he actually introduced me to another VAR in his network. And that other company uh, created a big boom of new deals in our organizations. They were in a very good growth phase, and their growth phase kind of influenced our growth phase. So at a certain point, we had more clients on a monthly basis than we can handle.
Mhm.
One of the good problems to have, I guess.
Of course.
And we definitely weren't set up for maintaining and managing all of those. I remember we had to hire plenty of new managers at that point. We didn't still have the system to properly execute and manage all of these client relationships.
Mm,
Um, so I would say it wasn't that hard for me personally to convince them that, hey, this channel works. Um, because at a certain point it grew up to a point where it was, I think, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know it was more than 70% of the revenue came from those two partners, whether
wow.
it was VAR related or referral related. Um, now you get the point what what I was trying to say at the beginning with the 30+%. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we essentially saw that, oh, this is a much easier way to grow, and then we just need to handle our things internally.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much easy for me to get the internal buy-in. Where the actual challenges came in was just trying to operationalize everything. As we grew with these partners, a lot of different challenges came into place. So mainly, the main one was probably communication, because um, these partners were, for a large part, white labeling us.
Yeah.
So um, they had to set the expectations with the clients, which sometimes weren't the same as our expectations that we had towards the end user, the end account.
Yeah.
So this was one of the main challenges. And especially when it comes to new hires, when we had new hires and they had new hires, it eventually it became a bit of a communicational mess, where we had to do a lot of ad hoc meetings, there was a big burnout in that period. I can tell you from a lot of our employees, just going through the motion of all of these things.
Yeah.
Um,
I was going to
Financially,
ask you, Philip, because I know for a fact, because you told me this, that you were basically doing at some point everything yourself, and it was just like a one-man band for the partnerships, and then you got more resources. Like, my question to you,
yeah.
because now I know that you have someone that helps you with the marketing and the communication, and also the role of, sometimes people underestimate the role of the partner ops, which is something that you need to land the partnerships, yes, but then you need to actually implement those and keep the communication going. So, what would be kind of like the suggestion for someone that it's in that situation where, I mean, how did you get those resources?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost is, like we mentioned, establishing that, hey, partnership is a great channel for more revenue, and we need to look into it more. So I had a fairly long time when I was doing all of this myself. So I had to educate myself. I had to be part of these types of webinars to learn about the tools, and a lot of blog articles that I read, a lot of events that I attended to just educate myself more on the topic and what it is essentially that I need. And one thing that I learned is, for each company and each person, those things can be very different. So,
Yeah.
maybe VARs don't work for you. They worked for us in the beginning, but eventually we came to a point where it doesn't work for us, just because of those bad experiences with burnout and everything.
Correct.
I was going to mention towards the end, before you cut me off, that financially we had some issues, and then we figured, uh-oh, this could be a risk. Thankfully, there was nothing bad happen at the end, but it was still a very big risk to suddenly lose 70% of your revenue. That for the vast majority of companies, that's bankruptcy at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thankfully, we didn't get to that point. But yeah, once you establish that this revenue stream is a very good one, a very healthy one,
Mhm.
then I would say just educate yourself, and then show your leadership team a lot of numbers. So even 30% revenue partnership created is a huge achievement that we mentioned. So if you can pinpoint, I know Jennifer at Apollo, she had a very good LinkedIn post about the success of their partnership system. I don't know the numbers, but they also have a very huge achievement from partner source revenue.
Yeah.
So getting examples from all these other companies that are maybe in the same space, if you can find some in the same space, then even better. Just use that, accumulate that, and present it in front of your leadership team. That would be a very good case for
Yeah.
starting a partnership
That's a
So we
great
channel.
that's a
actually
great
we
insight
have
because,
two
yeah.
questions. Um, the first question is from Alicia. She says, "What tools do you use for communications?" And the second one is from Menno. He asks, "How do you prevent this from happening again? Burnout or employee turnover? Standardized documentation, systems, investments?" That's a question mark. So maybe
Yeah,
we can,
several
yeah.
several questions. Yeah, for Alicia, I think we're gonna be unanimous when saying Slack is probably the best one. Just I personally love Slack. I've been using it since the first day that I came here at this company. I also use Slack for just with other groups, I guess, with other companies. Discord can be well. I've seen people use Discord very efficiently. I use it for gaming, so I don't know how efficient it is for work. But if it's the same, then I would also say that. Um, we used Asana for prepping this webinar, which I think was a very good communication tool, uh, because we could also add tasks for each other on how to properly manage this whole webinar. I would say those three guys. I don't know,
Yeah.
Ignacio, if you want to add
No, no,
something.
no,
Kiflo,
definitely. Slack
obviously.
Slack works really well. Thanks for the plugin of Kiflo, of course, if you want to use it. But I think that if you're just starting out, like Slack works really well, and then you move to something more robust, like a PRM, I would say. But I wanted to kind of like deep. I mean, because what you mentioned, the insight that you mentioned in terms of, it's also important to pay attention to the communication both with the partner but also internally, what you were mentioning about like getting kind of like the right insights or the right I would say reports or data to your partner, to your leadership. That's super important, it's extremely relevant. So I think that that's something to keep an eye on. And I don't know about you, the answer to the question for Meno, the one about
Menno.
like yeah.
Yeah, how do you prevent this from happening again? I mean, we learned our lesson the hard way. Like I said, plenty of us had a lot of burnout that happened. Um, I don't think there was too much employee turnover. I think maybe we are. I'm at least grateful for that. Those same people that worked on those accounts, the vast majority of them are still here. It was just about okay managing that they went through a lot at that point, and just making sure that we're not you know giving them too much work at that point. Um, but also, I wanted to say how kind of like how do you prevent this from happening is also to set clear goals with your partners from both
Mhm.
sides. I think I've learned that again the hard way. Just trying to see several things that come to mind is just ICP alignment. Are we going after the same market? Does it make sense to partner? You might have the best company out there, but if you're going, if you're targeting manufacturing and they're targeting only SaaS, then sorry,
It
there's
doesn't make
there's no
sense.
alignment here. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
uh, I would say, just what kind of showcase what the benefits are going to be for each, different types of partners, different types of benefits. Just come in with your cards wide open on the table, even from the first conversation, and then kind of like every other touch point with them.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out the joint value proposition, and probably the biggest one of all is to set expectations. If someone can provide you, a lead a week or a lead a month, then that's okay. Uh,
Mhm.
one deal per year might be fine if it means that that's how the start will look like, but then eventually it's
Yeah.
gonna become something even bigger down the
This
road.
leads us to the next subtopic, and because it's really on point, which is Tom, please, finding the right IPP. So the ideal partner profile, it's extremely important, and it's part of what you were describing. But I wanted to ask you on this, Philip. Can you give us kind of like an insight of how did you actually define who do you want to work with, or you wanted to work with, and who you didn't want to work with?
Yeah, this is the topic that I was waiting to talk about the most, I guess, or subtopic. Because it was not just that we were searching for partners for ourselves, but it came to a point that we were searching for partners for our clients. We saw how beneficial our partnership program would be, and we kind of recommended it to others. And also, other companies knew about partnership revenue that can be very beneficial, or the partnership channel rather. So I have, multiple instances. And after this webinar, we're pretty much giving a free gift of the messaging that we've used for some of these, obviously blanked with the company names and everything. But really, we kind of went back to what we do best as an organization, which is outbound outreach. So a combination between phone, email, and LinkedIn is how we went about it. I would say the big portion of those activities were phone calls. In a day and age where a lot of people tend to, shy away from the phone, and they think first and foremost, okay, I'm going to email someone or I'm going to text them on LinkedIn. I've seen that work less and less over the years.
Mhm.
I mean, recently, Google, well, rather Gmail, Yahoo, and I guess Outlook added a lot of restrictions for spam filtering. Um, or not restrictions, but they added a lot of things for
Yeah.
just anti-spam policies. Um, I've also seen this statistic, I think a couple of weeks ago, that an average executive gets about 121 emails per day. So, it tends to be
Wow.
very hard to get your message out in all of those emails. And then LinkedIn, when it was working the best towards 2020, 2021, they also added restrictions on how many people you can connect with.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of automation companies are trying to go around that, some of them successfully, some not. But I think eventually people learn that, okay, if someone texts me that I didn't know, it's probably someone that's going to pitch me something. But we do have messaging on that. Calls worked the most for us and the best. Again, in the pitch, we added some of these things that I mentioned right now when it comes to, clear expectations and goals for the partnership. First and foremost, I think the most successful part was trying to make sure that telling them that this isn't a sales call, but we're actively looking for partners. And then
Yeah.
people were by far more open to discuss, because it doesn't mean that we're going to be asking them for money, but potentially giving them an opportunity to make more money. So that was kind of like the first pillar. The second pillar, like I mentioned, just trying to set clear expectations and goals for a partnership, what we can offer, what they can expect from that, and if that works for them. So that's how we got a lot of partner meetings for our clients. Then essentially it was up to them to go about and close them. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think saying close them for partners is the right
Land
terminology,
them.
but
I think that landing a
land
partner,
them,
you.
land them, yeah. Landing them is probably a better way to say it. But yeah, just outbound outreach, a lot more focused on the phone. And this obviously goes into different challenges when it comes to building lead lists and and
Yeah.
managing those lead lists, and like I mentioned, designing the messaging, something that we're going to help out for the viewers and everyone who registered for
Yeah.
this event. But
I think
just
that
in
what you mentioned
general, a lot of
about like being
testing.
being transparent is also important. Like coming with value. I think that for you that works really well, and for us it works really well as well. So that's a great insight. Maybe we can deep dive into the other topic, which is kind of like the next one, Tom, which is partner recruitment tactic. This is your bread and butter. You're the expert on this. So maybe we can
Yeah,
have kind of like because you described some of those earlier before, but if someone wants to go after those, the ones that they already defined that they are their IPP, how
yeah.
can they actually, maybe an action plan, a quick action plan, and then how do you go after them?
Sure. So, I mean, the method is still the same. Like I mentioned, outbound outreach is what we did and what we are still doing for a lot of our clients and ourselves to find new partners. Um, I would say so. Testing was and still is a big part of the success. I've personally gotten to a point where I've tested maybe 6 or 7 different IPPs at this point. The vast majority of them were unsuccessful. I would meet with, for example, no hate on marketing agencies, but they didn't understand the point of sales, which I
Yeah.
find very odd. Being, it's for me, it's the same coin but different sides of it. But for example, fractional CMOs who were much more experienced in both things, they understood the value of sales, and they were much better to work with. Also with fractional VPs of sales who would obviously understand the value. And we've tested, anything from private equities and venture capitals and how they understand and see it as a cost reduction initiative for their portfolio companies to everything else in the mix. So a lot of it is testing when it comes to finding the right IPP, in my opinion. And there's different IPPs for different stages of your partnership journey. That's what
Mhm.
I've become to know throughout the years. I think that the joint value prop is very important. So you need to understand what they want out of all of this. Is it a transaction? Is it something more strategic where you both get to work together? Um, that's something that you need to hash out early on. We found very, very good success with integrated marketplace. And what I mean by that is if you're using, so say if someone is using Keyflow, and when I go into that cold call or into that meeting and I tell you that, oh, I have an add-on for Keyflow that will make you work much, much more efficient, then uh, that was something that people were very interested in, to kind of like hear about adjacent features or adjacent services to something that they've been using and that was very successful for them.
Yeah,
I think in telco and in healthcare, we had quite a lot of success with integrated marketplaces. Sometimes even name dropping helps. So if I say Keyflow instead of just a random company or a random tool, then
certainly
I
helps
think
a lot.
that, yeah, the success rate helped a lot. Um, what we've also seen is that potential partners like to know that there's a proven process, so something that has worked for others like themselves. They don't necessarily want to be the guinea pigs and to test things out, but
Mhm.
they want to know that, okay, this can be successful once I jump into it straight away. Not that, I need to see if it works for me, because it could be a very, very huge time investment, even if
Correct.
there's no money investment in it. um and yeah, just good messaging and good
And
intentions
also I
for
think that
connecting.
what you were mentioning, Philip, it's really important to listen to what they want, right? Like not being kind of like pushy, but also listening to when you land that first call, go with value, but also listen to what they really appreciate and what they value and what they are looking for, right? Because that's
Yeah,
basically a partnership is just like two ways this way. Sometimes we do forget about that. They don't work for us, they work with us. So that's super important.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay,
So
should we don't have any questions right now, so maybe we can go to the next topic,
let's go to the next one, which is, I think,
which
one of the most
is
important ones, which is building partner trust. And what we were talking about and what you were describing, Philippe, before this one, it's super important. Like, how do you define that criteria? Like, how do you know that that's the right fit for you? And maybe you can describe what happened if with your partners, and how do you get to that point where you actually trusted them?
yeah. um yeah, just looking back at things. In general, it usually starts off slow. No one is going to be super excited to work with you because they don't know you in the very beginning. But once you kind of get together those first couple of wins, and you actually execute and do good things for the end user, that's when the trust becomes much more apparent. Um, it eventually, for me, with those two partners that I mentioned in the very beginning, it came to a point that we were buddies. We were kind of like having a lot of tactical talks and brainstorming about how do we increase better results for the client that we were working on, or just how do we expand on them. So it eventually becomes, yeah, I don't want to use the word partner, but it's the right word that comes to mind, right? You do become partners, kind of like you're in the same boat at that point. But it tends to start off slow. They also need to see that you're for real, that everything that you're doing is very legit, and it's probably the best word here is that you do quality work.
Yeah,
Um, if you're doing, obviously services, and but I guess also the same thing applies with products. Customer success and communications, another topic that we've mentioned it several times on this webinar, but just like communication, clear goals, and expectations. um, Even if it's something that the client doesn't want to hear. Sometimes clients can be very rash when it comes to over expecting something, uh, which is a lot of times irrational, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
So I would say that that's how trust
It's
becomes
built.
being.
over
it's built.
time, right?
Yeah,
It takes time.
over time. Yeah, but at the very beginning, you need to treat them kind of like with kids' gloves. You need to be very patient. You need to be very precise in what you're doing. Just making
Yeah,
sure that they're that they don't doubt you, as I can if I can put it that way. So imagine if a new partner is coming into a relationship with you, there's going to be a lot of doubt. So you need to prove them that there's nothing to worry about, and that's through some easy wins in the very beginning. And then afterwards, when they see, okay, this company is for real, then you can kind of like expect a huge kind of like huge benefit from them.
that's beautiful. I like the analogy of being in the same boat. I mean, that's also something that builds a lot of trust because in a way you are with them doing kind of like the goal is the same. So common goal, it's and being clear and transparent always helps. So perfect. So we are a little bit over time, Tom. I see that we are
11
coming to
minutes.
the
Yeah.
end, but maybe we can have like a few takeaways. I don't know, like because Philippe, first of all, like thanks for all the insights. I hope that this was beneficial for everyone. Tamara, thank you for joining. I think that if there are no extra questions, maybe we can have kind of like a few or one main key takeaway from your side, Philippe, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think Menno summarized that very well. Just clear goals and objectives, benefits, the value, uh, added proposition. So
I
I
love
would
that
say
as well.
just lead with these. And again, like I mentioned, a lot of testing. Don't be afraid. I felt like I was starting a company within the company when I got this position of VP of partnerships. So just don't get bummed out if something is not working out in the first even 1 to 2 years. Not so you very well know that
Yeah.
partners tend to have a lot of time until they actually develop and flourish. So
It
I would say
happens.
that as a takeaway.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and I can totally relate to that. Like sometimes it feels lonely. I mean, but this is we are doing this because of that. I mean, there's a beautiful community out there, and you can just reach out to Philippe, myself, anyone, and we will certainly help. So I'm glad to see like Alicia there. Thanks for the comments and that you enjoyed it. And Meno, you're a rock star. So I think
Yeah.
that we can wrap it up on that one. And yeah, the invitation also first, Philip, a pleasure. Always super nice to chat with you and learn from you. And I believe that yeah, for the next one we are going to do this once a month. So keep an eye on that one, and we'll have experts where we can learn. We learn a lot from our experts. And again, Philip, it was a real pleasure having you today as our first guest.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was a lot of fun. Uh I mean, a lot of yapping from my end, but I think we
No, it
covered a
was
lot of
great.
good topics. And
Yeah.
I really like the engagement with the chat. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks everyone
Thank you
for
for
your
all your
questions.
questions, and yeah, thanks for attending, guys. Great questions and great discussion, everyone.
and see you in the next one.
See you in the
All
next
right.
one.
Thanks
Cheers.
guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.